Okay, so I'll try to fit everything that I saw in this little talk here. It's gonna be all over the map, but bear with me. Hi, Celeste. The abstract of the paper concerning the the Remnant planetary core in the hot Neptunian desert. Now, the hot Neptunian desert doesn't exist. If there's a planet inside this desert, then there's no longer a desert there. See what I'm saying? It was fictional to begin with. They just invented it because they were looking for patterns before they had all the information. That's the same problem they fell into with the protoplanetary disk hypothesis. The pattern of all the objects in the solar system exhibiting, they tried to apply to all the exoplanet systems. So they said, this is what we should expect, exactly what we observe here. But that was a sample size of 1 out of 200 billion. Statistically, a sample size of 1 out of 200 billion plus isn't a sample size at all. That's zero data. It's the same with a hot Neptunian desert. They had zero data. Now that the data is rolling in, they're finding out there's no such thing as a hot Neptunian desert. Not only that, but even in the abstract, I gotta hand it to them. They make an admission here. It's really cool. I like hearing the astronomers make admissions of real, how do you say it? I like to see them humbling themselves, in other words. In the abstract, it says, the interiors of giant planets remain poorly understood. Right there. That's the beginning sentence. The interiors of giant planets remain poorly understood. I don't know if there are any linguistics type people watching these videos, but poorly understood means you don't understand them. Even for the planets in the solar system, difficulties in observations lead to major uncertainties in the properties of planetary cores. Major uncertainties in the properties of planetary. Poorly understood. They just don't know what they're looking at. They don't know what they're talking about. And it's good to see that they can admit that in this paper. Of course, their models for how these objects form are all misguided because they don't realize that stellar evolution is planet formation. This object, TOI 849b, they found, it is 40.8 times the mass of the Earth. It has a density of 5.5 grams per centimeter cubed, about the same as the Earth. Density-wise, not composition. And it's about 3.5 times wider than the Earth. So it's wide. It's a big mamma jamma. And I want to kind of help the astronomers here understand what it is they're looking at. There's a paper I wrote concerning the maximum mass and density of a dead star, and I have it set using K2-229 Bravo's mass of 2.59 Earth masses. So the maximum mass a star can be in its rocky state is 2.59 Earth masses, which is really, really big as a large rocky ball. And being that TOI 849 Bravo, we'll call this Piglet. I'll just use the name Piglet because I don't like saying that. Piglet is 40.8 Earth masses. Now, if the maximum mass it can be after all its volatile material is dissipated is 2.59 Earth masses, you just take 40.8 and subtract 2.59, and you get 38.21 Earth masses of material that is going to be lost as the star evolves. And if you take 38.21 divided by 40.8, you'll get 93.65 of the star's mass. 93.65% of the star's mass is going to be lost as it currently is, at the very least, before the internal rocky object remains and it's a dead star. It's gone through all of the stages of evolution. What that tells me is this object is mostly water. It's nearly 90+% water, maybe 92 to 93% water. Maybe 89 to like 93% water, I should say. And there's I think 4% hydrogen and helium, and the rest of it's rocky and metal material. And that being said, I actually have this in the paper. it got stretched out. I don't know why on the Vixra paper it got stretched out sideways, but you'll see it here. The Vixra paper is already up. If you look at this line, I linked this paper, I believe, to the bottom. This is the archive paper, but if you look at this graph here, the x-axis is mass and the y-axis is radius. And you see those dotted lines right there? That dotted line up there is 100% modeled as being 100% water. That second dotted line is 50% water. The third dotted line is Earth-like. Now notice where TOI 849b is, Piglet. Notice where Piglet is. Piglet is right there. Right around 90 to 92, 93% hypothesized or modeled to be water. And that's along the lines of what stellar metamorphosis predicts, is that this object is a very thick, deep ocean water world. It's really close to its host, and the admission of the dogmatist is that it's a core remains of a gas giant. Well, that's what all planets are. All planets are the core remains of very old, long dead gas giants or highly evolved gas giants. And gas giants are the remains of very young, hot, brilliant stars similar to the sun. And to explain why it's more massive than Neptune, it's not any secret here. If you look at this graph, an object where Piglet is right there can be more massive than regular Neptune stage stars. It can be way up there. It just is on a very high transformation curve. It's way up here at the very top, which means when it was a gas giant, it was really, really big and dense. And when it was a star, much younger star, it was huge. So we're talking about a star that is going to transform or metamorphosize or undergo metamorphosis to become a very, very, very large Earth. And that's what they're looking at. It's an extremely deep, extremely thick water ocean world. And to explain why it's so dense, it's not dense because it's rocky. It's not rocky at all. It has the same density as the Earth, is because that water inside of its interior, the thick ocean world, where it has almost 38 Earth masses in mass, that water compresses tremendously inside the interior of that object. That's why it can become more dense. And also, its interior is also much more dense. That one paper I linked that I had written earlier about the maximum mass and density, the K2-229 Bravo, that star, is around 8.9 cubic centimeters, or 8.9 grams per cubic centimeter. So basically the entire thing is a large iron ball for the most part. And iron only has a density of what, like 7 grams per cubic centimeter. But anyways, that's that in a nutshell. I have the paper already up on Vixra, but it's it's very interesting seeing that they admit that this object is the remains of a gas giant. I haven't seen that written anywhere. I guess they're starting to come to terms with the reality that what they were trained to believe at university and what's been trained, or how astronomers have been trained since like the 1870s and before, they're realizing that all that information is severely misguided, and it's very important to understand. And if they could just realize that the misguidedness doesn't necessarily come from them not being, intelligent enough, or not having the correct math equation, or not having the amount of correct schooling, or the specific types of classes you need to take. The misguided nature that we're dealing with here is just simple semantics. They're labeling the old stars as planets. That's the only thing you need to correct, and it would all come together instantaneously like a line of dominoes. As well, on a last note here, I'm kind of making this video in response to a few people that had commented to that Electric Universe video where they said, stellar evolution is falsified. The models are falsified because you have your theory of stellar pulsations, and then you have a theory of stellar evolution, and the two were mismatched with each other. Well, of course they're mismatches with each other, because stellar evolution has never been correct. It's never been correct. They've never understood what an old star even looks like, and they were calling old stars planets. And unfortunately, Electric Universe still also calls old stars planets. So I wouldn't see them talking about this theory anytime in the future. But anyways, I just want to make these videos for posterity's sake. All right, I'll link the paper to the bottom. All right, y'all, take it easy.